10 years ago, Tesla unveiled the Model 3, and now 10 years later, the 2026 version of this car has changed quite a bit, and there are essentially 3 trims. You have the normal rear-wheel drive, premium rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, and then performance. Each of these trims has something to offer, but of course, the more you pay, the more features you get. That's why today I'm driving all 3 trims to truly give a full picture of the Model 3 Tesla offers today and help you decide which you want. What I find particularly interesting is how similar they all are, but there is plenty of good and bad to know about, so let's get into it. To start with today, let's look at the cheapest trim of the Model 3, the normal rear-wheel drive. Up front, you have pretty normal headlights, and these were changed for the 2024 refresh. Some new details that have been added to this car are there is a front bumper camera that is built in right here, and the logo, instead of being chrome, is now black. Here's what the front trunk looks like. It's pretty standard across all trims, which is very good about this car. In the Model Y standard, you have a very stripped down front trunk, which is a little interesting. This is the same, and a lot of this car feels very much the same. Wiper fluid here, decent amount of storage space, and then it's manual open and close. I think more than any other Tesla vehicle, the wheels that they're doing on this standard absolutely demand that you keep the covers on. Overall, not the worst look. Definitely just a sealed off cover, but it's very much plastic. You can hear it here. But once you take this off, I mean, just don't do this. I mean, this is not a good wheel in any world. And you basically never want this on display. So, you know, just leave these covers on, and maybe there are third-party ones you could get as well that just make it look a lot better. It's another reason not to take it off, because putting it back on is kind of a nightmare. There are a bunch of cameras all around this car to enable the full self-driving system and safety features. And then side mirrors, since this is the base trim, they are entirely manual fold. The door handles are the same this car has had for a long time. It's just they've been black for the last couple years. You put your thumb in there and then pull. Another camera here, and then a split glass roof, so you can see that this is its own panel here, and then there's another piece. But it's entirely a full glass roof that you can see through on all trims of this car, which is great to see they didn't take that out of the base trim. Here's where the charge port is located on all versions of the Model 3, and then you have a powered rear trunk. One great thing about electric cars is that they're able to find a lot more space. So the trunk space in the Model 3, even though it's more of a compact car, is actually pretty good. And it's especially good because you can lift this up and there's this entire sub-trunk storage, which right now is housing one of these hubcaps. On top of that, there are 2 side cubbies, of course, one on each side. And then there's an interesting detail in the base trim, and I think it's actually in the premium rear-wheel drive as well, which is that it doesn't have subwoofers, but there is the location for those subwoofers right here. They're just entirely empty. If you want more storage space in the rear, you can come up and fold the seats down manually from the inside. And then it opens up a decent amount of pass-through room right here. You're just, of course, height limited. For the most part, those are the features of the exterior of this car. So let's get in and see what it's like as a rear passenger first. The back of the Model 3 in general is decently comfortable, but also it's a tight car, so you can feel it a little bit. I'm about 5'10", and the glass roof does help a lot with headroom. I'm definitely not at risk of hitting it, but if you're a little taller, you could get close there. There is this center beam that divides the glass roof, and you definitely notice that a little bit. It's very present right in front of me, but that has a couple of lights on it as well as a coat hanger. And then you'll notice the back of the seats, there are no pockets, but you do have some storage in the door pockets right here. And then right here are 2 USB-C ports as well as normal adjustable vents that are manual. This is one of those things that makes this car interesting because other trims have a screen here, and this is a downgrade, but for some people, they just prefer a little bit of a physical control. The seats are this mixture of vegan leather and a textile material, so I do feel it getting a little warmer in practice, but then the center seat folds down and has cup holders. I'd say if you're on a very long road trip, the Model 3 will feel a little bit uncomfortable, even for 4 adults, just the 2 adults back here. And definitely if you were trying to put 3 back here, you'd fit. but you'd probably get tired of being so close to one another. One detail that I always like to mention in these cars is that they use electronic releases. That's right here, and it's how you release the door. But in case of an emergency, in the rear seats, you actually reach down here into the pocket, pull out this little thing, and then pull this yellow string to open the door. It's definitely good to know that in advance. The Model 3 has always had a very simple interior, and this keeps it pretty much the same. In the base model, you have a lot of the features that you have in the upgraded trims, but you do have a blinker stock now. They previously had taken that away on this car. Now they've put it back by popular demand. So on the left side, there's a blinker stock. There's no stock to your right. So when you're going to shift, you press the brake and then you swipe on screen to go whichever direction you want to go. The other way that you shift is by having it use auto shift, where it automatically figures out which direction you need to go out of park, and it can even do multi-point turns and stuff like that. And then if something happens to the screen and you can't shift on screen, these backup shifters up here become what you use. Much like the back seat, you have your electronic door release right here, and then you have window buttons, but the manual release for these doors is just right here. On the left side of the steering wheel, you have this scroll wheel that controls media, play, pause, next, previous track, volume. This controls your headlights, so you press this. Usually you'll use auto headlights, but if you need to turn on your brights, you can do that here and then adjust it further on screen. And very similar with windshield wipers. On the right side, this scroll wheel is dedicated to self-driving, so you press it and press it again to engage or disengage. This is voice commands, press and hold, and then you'll get into grok. And then this is your rear camera. In between the two front seats is the center console area, and just below the center screen, there are two wireless phone chargers. I will say in all trims, these operate a lot as wireless phone heaters. They're not the most efficient, but then this slides open for some storage, and there's a 12-volt outlet right here. Cup holders, which are open all the time in this trim, and then the armrest lifts up magnetically for some more storage with a USB-C port. Then you have the big 15.4-inch center touchscreen. This is something they might upgrade in the future, but for now, this is the size of this screen. And the first thing you'll notice is all the things that you do have to control on screen. So you have to control your seats on screen, only in the base trim of this car, but the air vents are totally controlled on screen as well, and that's something across all trims. Something you definitely get used to, doesn't bother me because it's saved to my driver profile. Overall, the software is really good, very zippy. There are a bunch of different apps and streaming services built in. This doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto at this point, so you will be using some of these built-in things or maybe just the Bluetooth connection here. Then you have vehicle controls. It's kind of cool. You have this little animation of a car that you can scroll around like this. But then when it's time to drive and you shift into drive, you'll see a fully different split here. It's kind of 2/3 of the screen are maps and whatever other app you're gonna open. So maybe I'll put Spotify up there right now. And then this is your driving visualization, which will have speed and everything. You'll see once I drive. There are a bunch of settings on screen and everything, but for the most part, this is some of the best vehicle software out there. Just like the rear seats, these are vegan leather mixed with a textile material. So I do feel myself getting a little warmer, especially compared to the ones that have cooling. The front seats are heated seats, the rear are nothing, and there's no cooling in any of the seats for this trim. But now let's take this base trim for a drive. So this is the base model of the Model 3, and what I immediately notice after having driven the premium models for a few years at this point is that it's largely the same. And this one is differentiated from the Model Y in that it still has a glass roof. So for the most part, this feels very similar. I just immediately obviously noticed these textile seats. I noticed this is just a piece of metal. There's no light integrated with it. I think the cup holders don't actually close, which to me is not the biggest deal in the world. There's still the two wireless phone chargers right here. This is the Model 3 that has added back the stock, so it still has a stock. Everything looks pretty much the same from my perspective. The one big thing I noticed right away, though, is the seat adjustments. So this is something that's on the base model. You have to adjust the seats on screen. Now, again, these save to your driver profile, and so once you get this dialed in, it probably automatically adjusts for you each time and isn't the biggest deal, but I'm definitely catching myself reaching down to adjust my seat quite a bit when I'm getting acquainted with this car. But either way, the way you shift in all of these cars is either it automatically guesses your direction and will shift into that for you with your confirmation, or you swipe on screen. So let's go for a drive. Now the base model has a little bit of a reduced suspension, at least reduced quality compared to the other trims. In general, this car is just not probably going to be quite as smooth of a ride, and then it will probably be a little bit louder in the cabin. I previously did a review of the Model Y where I did all 3 trims just like I'm doing today. I did the Standard, the Premium, and the Performance. And I noticed quite a big difference with the Standard, even though it still definitely felt comfortable. It was still a good ride for a lot of people. It delivers a lot of stuff. And I'm kind of having the same experience here, but on a little bit of another level. To me, just from a perception standpoint, this feels just as smooth as I was used to in my previous 2024 rear-wheel drive Model 3. And part of that could be because it's a little bit of a lighter car because it has a smaller battery pack, delivering about 321 miles of range with the stock wheels instead of 363 with the next trim up, Premium. But yeah, the glass roof, everything about this feels comfortable. It's nice and quiet. And this one, when it goes from normal to Premium, just isn't as big of a jump. From the exterior, actually, the only difference you can really see is that it has those different wheels. And you can upgrade those optionally if you prefer. From a driving perspective, this has everything you need. Everything's on the center screen. It does take some getting used to have speed over to your right a little bit, and some of the controls being on the screen. Like I mentioned, getting in and having to adjust the seating on screen is quite odd at first, but then you have a normal standard blinker stock, and that's pretty nice to have. There are 2 scroll wheels for various controls. You adjust the side mirrors on screen, but then the steering wheel is entirely manual. So if I want to adjust that, I pull this lever right here and then adjust it accordingly, bring it out to exactly where I want. Yeah, not the biggest deal in the world, but when you compare it to the other trims, this is manual versus powered. I have speakers all in the front here and kind of what is a speaker bar. And then I have left and right speakers, and within this is a little blind spot indicator. So when a car pulls up into my blind spot, this will light up red, as you can see right here. It's a totally traditional rear view mirror, and the side mirrors do not power fold or anything on this particular trim. And then as you can see right there, when I turn on the blinker, my blind spot comes up on screen. So there are a lot of great features included in this car, and one of the biggest is that this has all of the same cameras. So if I bring up all the cameras on screen right here, it's showing me the rear and the 2 sides, and then I can swipe down and I see a front camera. That is something that was fairly recently added to the Model 3 across the board. And it's very cool that it's all in the base trim. Now, the big thing I talk about with this car is the fact that when you look at full self-driving, or right here, self-driving on the menu, you have 2 different options: traffic-aware cruise control and full self-driving supervised. So if you buy this car, you only get traffic-aware cruise control. You'll get a free demo month, 1 month right now, of full self-driving, or you'll get 3 months if you use someone's referral link. But after that, for the car to do any sort of auto steering for you, you have to subscribe to full self-driving, which is currently $99 per month. So there's no sort of basic auto steer or lane keeping included with this car unless you pay $99 per month. But then you get full self-driving, and the included package with full self-driving on this car is exactly the same as the highest end trim. So the Performance Model 3 is just as capable at self-driving as this one is. So with that said, let's go into full self-driving right here. It is pretty amazing to watch this system work because it's very smooth. I can actually go in here to the software menu. Let me see which version we're on. 14.2.2.5, so it's one of the most recent releases. Totally coming to a good stop, accelerating when I need. And I'm in standard right now, but you can go between a bunch of different drive modes, and the scroll wheel on the right controls that. So sloth is the slowest, chill, standard, hurry, and Mad Max. You can imagine what Mad Max is like as a driver. Usually I'm in standard or hurry on my own car, but I believe these come with sloth as the default out of the factory. And that's because it's the most cautious, it's not gonna try to overtake cars too much, and it will just generally drive slower. Now this is one of the slowest Model 3s Tesla has ever shipped, and it's the slowest one, of course, that you can buy today. It's rear-wheel drive and gets about a 5.8 second 0 to 60. For me, 0 to 60 times are cool, and they show you how quick a car can be. But at the end of the day, it's kind of gimmicky. What really matters to me is how much get-up can this have in those situations when you really need it, accelerating onto the freeway, or doing a little bit more of an aggressive lane change. But let's try the 0 to 60 here. As you can see, I braced myself for that. there's really nothing to brace for. The initial part of that is pretty slow compared to a lot of vehicles, but what you still definitely have in this car is instant torque, and that's one of the best parts of electric cars in general. And even though this gets that lower 0 to 60 mark, I can just kind of, gun it at any time I need. It's like this. Even that is still plenty of power and a lot more than most people would be used to in a car this size. But yeah, if you're on the freeway and you need to overtake someone, it's so nice to be going 30 and then just suddenly jump up to 40, just like that. And to me, that's where I appreciate electric cars and instant torque the most. And this car, as a base model, still very much has it. If I rock side to side here, we can kind of see how this suspension plays. It's definitely a little rockier than some of the other ones, but still I find the ride in this car to be very good, especially for a car at $37,000 delivering everything this does. Overall, I find this to be a very good vehicle and a very good value. In fact, I think it's a much better value when you go between standard and premium than the Model Y is. But it does seem that Tesla really doesn't want to sell this car as much right now. It was actually a little harder for us to find one of this trim to test drive, and yes, it is newer, but it's definitely available. And then when you look at financing right now, there is 0.99% promotional financing for the premium and performance trims of this car, but for the base model, that is the cheaper one, it's something like 6% right now. So when you really do the math, you're actually only paying, in some cases, like $17 more per month to upgrade to premium. And with that premium, you get all the features we'll talk about in a second. It is something to keep in mind that when you test drive a vehicle, it's brand new and that suspension hasn't really been broken in. So sometimes it can convince you that the ride quality is a little better than it might be in a couple of years. But in general, I think it's great. I don't think most people are gonna really notice a difference here, especially if they're looking and in the market for more of that base model. Right over that speed bump, no big deal. Now, the last thing I always want to check in any vehicle is the sound system. And it's notable in this car because this has 7 speakers versus the premium has 9 speakers in rear-wheel drive. And then the premium all-wheel drive and performance have 15 speakers and 2 subwoofers. I think for me, the subwoofers are probably the thing that will make the biggest perceptible difference. But in general, what I notice with sound systems is just, is it pleasing to listen to for a decent amount of time? So I'm gonna give it some tests with some stuff I normally listen to. So this car is a lot tighter than other cars from Tesla, like the Model Y, just as far as how much there is in front of you and just air all around the cabin. But I will say this sound system in particular sounds very compressed to me. Just very tight, and not in a great way. Most of these recordings I was listening to, Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra and Count Basie, Masquinata by Sergio Mendes. They're very high fidelity recordings with a lot of high end, and I'm just not getting that picture here. Frank's voice just doesn't sound too great. So it's definitely a base model sound system, and if that's really important to you, it's something you'll notice, and it's worth comparing when we test drive the upgraded premium version. In general, the biggest thing is that all of these trims have the same great software from Tesla. And yes, you have additional things like adjusting your seats on screen. So that is a little different. You'll be interfacing with the screen more in this trim than others. But I will say it's just very zippy, very fast. Everything is really good about Tesla's software approach. It's just the best vehicle software that there is, and you get it across the board in its full form. Now, the textile seats are comfortable. Overall, I find this to be a pretty comfortable seat, and you do have adjustable lumbar support. You can feel it right here. A little surprised it actually has that on this car. In the past, Tesla has cut adjustable lumbar support to save on cost. You notice it's not in the passenger seat. But just driving around today, it's about 66 degrees, definitely sunny. I'm feeling it coming in through the glass roof, which you feel more on this car than, say, the Model Y, because they actually upgraded the tint in that car, and I don't think they've done it here yet. But it's a little warm, and my back is starting to feel a little bit sweaty just from being in this car. It's a lot nicer, of course, if you can have cooled seats. The next upgrade from the rear-wheel drive is the premium version of the Model 3, and this comes in rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Now, up front, there's not a ton different. It has the same logo, same bumper, same front bumper camera, headlights, but then the first difference is the wheels that are included with the base model. These are the 18-inch Photon wheels, and they look a lot better than those other ones. The wheels also look better without the cover on, And then these mirrors are power folding. The same as the base trim, this has a front trunk and it's exactly the same. Aside from that, the exterior is the same, so let's go inside. Right away when getting into the back of this car in the upgraded form, there are a couple things that you notice, but in general it's pretty much the same. First, this light bar is all the way around the interior. It's customizable, it does give it a little more of a premium feel. Then with these seats, they're all perforated and all vegan leather. They're not cooled in the rear here, but they are heated. And that's all controlled on this center screen, which is 8 inches. This screen controls your climate. You can also change your heated seat. It's just the left and right seat, not the center seat. You can control media and actually connect Bluetooth devices here, so Bluetooth headphones. And then there are those 2 USB-C ports located underneath that screen. Then lastly back here, there are seat back pockets. With the premium trim, both outside and inside, it's all about these little differences. So the first one you will definitely notice is the cooled perforated seats. Feels very good on your body when you're sitting in them, and they're just a little bit more comfortable and premium feeling. They're also heated in the front. And then there's this slide out for the cup holders. It actually covers the cup holders as opposed to the base trim, just a very small difference. Other than that, the center console is the same with the same ports. The steering wheel is exactly the same, and the sound system is slightly upgraded in the rear-wheel drive trim. It's 9 speakers, and then the all-wheel drive premium is 15 speakers plus 2 subs. So that's where you really get the best sound system. For seat adjustments, there are normal buttons on the side, so I can adjust just like this. For a lot of people, that's gonna be nice. We'll see whether you really care about it long-term when it's saved to your driver profile. And then the steering wheel is power adjustable. So you actually adjust this by clicking on screen, and then now I can adjust it with the scroll wheels. Right away when getting in to drive the premium version, you notice this light bar. It's definitely present. And you can go up here to lights. You can change the color if you want, dial in the brightness. There's certain features that will sync it to music. Definitely a cool feature that just kind of ups the feeling of this cabin. But aside from those things, I don't really see much else. This is all the same up here. This is all the same. I do have adjustable seat buttons on the side of the seat. I think initially I would prefer that. Over time with my custom driver profile that is saving my seat adjustments, I might not care too much that this has that versus the other one doesn't. But one big upgrade I do notice is the cooled seats. So if I open the climate menu right here, I can click on cooled seat, and immediately you will start feeling that on your back. It's definitely a lot nicer than those textile seats. With that said, I've definitely felt a lot stronger cooled seats on many other cars from different brands. And the steering wheel is power adjustable and also saves to your driver profile. So I click steering on screen, I have up, down, in, and out. And it is interesting because there are certain features that are a downgrade for the base trim, like the fact that those controls are on screen. The control for adjusting your seat is on screen, and that's a downgrade that comes in the base trim. But when you upgrade, you get physical controls there, but then to adjust your steering wheel, instead of a physical control, you adjust that on screen. So there are 2 different versions of the premium trim, and they have just a couple of differences. And one of the differences, of course, is the rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. But in rear-wheel drive, you get 9 speakers. In all-wheel drive, you get 15 speakers plus 2 subwoofers. So I'm gonna test the 9-speaker system right now and see how it compares after I just drove in the 7-speaker system. Now, of course, it's not that the number of speakers always makes a better system. Just adding speakers is not what makes a great system. There's so much more to the design of it, and sometimes fewer can be better. So in this case, let's see if 2 more speakers makes a noticeable difference. Right away, I can notice it does feel a little more open, a little less compressed, and it's still not as good as what I assume the premium systems are gonna be, but it does make a noticeable difference when upgrading from the other trim. It's just a little more pleasant, and I think I wouldn't get as fatigued listening to it for a long period of time. With that said, it still does leave some to be desired, especially in just the depth of the recording. There's certain stuff I'm used to hearing that I'm not hearing in this car because it just doesn't present it to you as well. Now this is the longest range version of this car because it's rear-wheel drive. It comes in at 363 miles, so let's take it for a spin. It works just the same as the base trim. I'm gonna shift into drive here, or I could have done auto shift out of drive as well. Now one feature that's upgraded on premium is it's a little bit of a better suspension. So it should just be a little bit more controlled and a little bit of a smoother ride. Interestingly enough, I think I'm just feeling a bit more of the road in this. For some people, they might like that, but it's just not quite the same level of smoothness that I felt in the base trim. Maybe that could have to do with the weight because this is a little bit heavier, but I'll push it a little bit to see if I'm really noticing it. In general, it's still a great ride. I'm just trying to really get into the nitty-gritty of what it's like day to day. I think for most people buying a car, they kind of just want a really smooth ride. And this definitely delivers that, and it's very quiet in here. Everything's great. With each trim upgrade of the Model 3, it gets quicker. So this is still rear-wheel drive, but it's a 4.9 second 0 to 60. I'll do a 0 to 60 test in a second here, but you can definitely feel it just has more punch and get up when you need it. Woo! It's pretty amazing that that is a rear-wheel drive car. It's still very quick. Up from here, you have dual motor, so that will give you more control, and then a 0 to 60 that is in 4.2 seconds, so it's just even more impressive. And then performance, which we'll get to in a second. Overall though, this feels pretty similar to the base rear-wheel drive trim. You just have all these little incremental upgrades that do start to add up. Like my back right now is a lot colder than it was when I was driving the base model, and I think it's for the better. Then you get about 40 more miles of range, extra speed, these premium seats, this lighting. The sound system is a little bit better. So in a bunch of different ways, you do notice the upgrade. And right now, as I was mentioning, it's actually a lot cheaper to get this when you look at financing rates. You'll be paying a ton of interest to Tesla to get the base model instead of this upgraded one. And that is intentional on their part to get more people to upgrade. Now, if you're a radio listener, one upgrade you get in this car is FM radio. This doesn't have AM radio, but in the base trim, you actually don't get radio of any kind built in. I guess technically you get internet radio, but not traditional FM or AM radio. Then in the base trim, there are 3 paint options, just white, gray, and black. And this car adds 3 more options, deep blue, quicksilver, and red. The specifics on the suspension is that they're frequency-dependent shocks as opposed to just being passive. In general, it's going to be better, but for my money, it's actually not all that noticeable, especially rear-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive. With that said, if you do upgrade trims, you get that extra speed and everything that I mentioned, but your range does drop a little bit from 363 with this down to 346. Much more than previous years, the Performance Model 3 really stands out as a performance vehicle. Yes, there's stuff under the hood, so to speak, that makes it a performance car, but the front bumper is entirely different on this trim specifically. You can see these cuts, everything is more aggressive about it. And then you come over and you have these 20-inch performance warp wheels with red brake calipers and special performance tires. So these are the wheels as they're designed, but these are all actually inserts that you can remove if you prefer the look. It just takes a little bit of work to remove them. Then the side, other than the wheels, looks pretty much the same, but around back it is quite different as well. There's a carbon fiber spoiler, you have this ludicrous badge, and then it's a much more aggressive rear diffuser. Once you open the trunk, it's pretty much the same in the back, but you will notice the all-wheel drive, premium, and the performance do have 2 subwoofers back here. These slots are actually full. In the back, there are only a couple little differences. It has this kind of suede material, I think black Alcantara, and then there are no seat back pockets. So if you're a die-hard seat back pockets guy, you don't want the base trim and you don't want the performance trim. By far the nicest part about the Performance Model 3 in particular is these seats. So they have this bolstered side support. It's very noticeable. And in general, it's just a really, really comfortable seat. Now let's take it for a spin. Sitting in this car, you immediately notice it is more comfortable. These seats have this bolstered side support, and they're made as performance seats in that way. It even has this little Lucid badge within it, and it just really hugs you and feels very comfortable. For a little bit, I did own the Performance Model 3 in its refreshed form, so I had these seats in white, and I guess maybe take that into account with this review. I loved that car. I did put it on Turo and then it got totaled, so I miss it a little bit. But overall, this does have some upgrades you will experience. Up front, I noticed the carbon fiber accents. It has this, which is a little more of a suede material, or Alcantara, instead of what it is in the other trims. And then I can change that side light to whatever color I want. I'll go for blue today. But aside from that, it's basically the same car yet again. You just really do notice that seat. So I'd say the difference going from premium to performance, from just a driver comfort perspective, is actually a lot more noticeable than going standard to premium. On screen, there are some exclusive things for this as well, because this has an even more upgraded adaptive suspension. So if I go to dynamics, I have chill, standard, and insane for acceleration, and then standard or sport for ride and handling. There's also track mode because this is a performance vehicle designed to be on the track. So now let's see how it feels. In my experience in the past, I actually noticed you feel more of the road in this car, which a lot of people like in a performance vehicle. But if you're going for comfort, it's not actually the most comfortable version of the Model 3, at least just for bumpiness on the road. And then the performance, while being insane, may not matter to everyone if they're using full self-driving all the time, but it does have a 2.9 second 0 to 60, so let's experience that. So I just did a little test with the sound system, and this is upgraded to 15 speakers and 2 subwoofers. And then of course it's more than that, it's all the staging for how the sound travels throughout the vehicle. And listening to the same exact song in all 3 cars, yes, you absolutely notice the difference. It's much clearer, much less fatiguing, and the high end is very clear. It's that kind of thing where I'm listening to an old Frank Sinatra record and I actually can hear the hiss of the tape on that original recording in this car, and then his voice sticks out in a great way. The whole thing is pleasing. Originally, actually, this is one of the reasons I bought the performance car, was for that sound system, and it doesn't disappoint. I will say it's better in other cars from Tesla, like the Model Y and the Cybertruck, but I think that's just the nature of how big those cars are. This is a smaller vehicle, and the sound just has to do what it can do with the amount of space you have, versus in the Model Y and Cybertruck, if you have a lot more room, if that sound can travel around a little bit more, it just has more opportunity to be a better sound system overall and just have more depth to it. So when it comes to the suspension, I compared those first 2 vehicles, and this is the third one. I actually weirdly felt a little bit more of the road in the premium car, and then you definitely feel even more here. But it is cool that it's adaptive, because yes, I feel more, and some of that is also because of the larger 20-inch wheels. But if I prefer on screen, I can just click over to Sport, and then I'll feel even more of the road. All right, we talked about those practical use cases for having a lot of speed. Let's see if this holds up, if I need to make a quick merge or lane change. Whoa, that is plenty. Oh man, that is pretty wild. The instant torque and just how much you can get right away. Woo. Wow, that is crazy. It's one of those things where, yes, it's like, Ryan, you owned this car. Why are you surprised? It's still shocking every time you go to give it the full power it has. All right, proper 0 to 60, here we go. Wow. Oh man, oh, that just, oh yeah, great. So, necessary for most people, definitely not, but that is a lot of fun. So yes, that is incredible. But to me, whenever reviewing a Tesla vehicle, it's interesting because they've gone all in with the engineering on this new Model 3 performance. They clearly valued upgrading this in a lot of ways, and it's very distinct. Exterior, interior, definitely the performance. But at the end of the day, they're pushing so far into robotaxis and self-driving that they really want people to be on the subscription for full self-driving with the performance Model 3. So you buy this car, and you have all this performance available, but do you actually end up using it day to day? Or do you end up just driving with a car that costs you a little bit more for maintenance and tire replacements and all of that? And then you just end up using self-driving like I'm doing right now. Right here is actually a great maneuver to demonstrate this with. It's gonna try to do a U-turn. I think it has plenty of room to do it. Just very impressive to see a self-driving system so confidently taking a U-turn to get me back to where I'm going. To go with the performance model, you definitely pay for the upgrade. I think it's about $7,500 more. So I would say this is really only for people that definitely want a performance car. If you like the way the seats are, or you like some of the carbon fiber accents and the way it looks outside, that's all very cool, but day to day, if it's not that important to you, that it's a performance vehicle, probably not worth the upgrade. Maybe you instead want to go with the all-wheel drive premium trim. Regardless of any of these caveats though, I will say this is probably one of the best Tesla vehicles. The Model Y performance is very good, but as a performance vehicle, it's also quite large. So it's very cool and has a lot of the features that this has. Actually has some things that are better too, like the thigh support in the legs. Maybe this car will get that in a refresh, but regardless, just top to bottom, everything this comes with, the comfort, full self-driving, the features, cooled seats, great sound system. It's a really great vehicle. Oh. It's kind of like a mini, little bit more practical version of the Plaid Model S at a much lower price. And Tesla's still selling it. 10 years later, the Model 3 has proven to be a very popular vehicle, and it proved to be the basis of the most popular vehicle in the world, the Model Y. So overall, it's doing great, but it still hasn't seen a ton of refreshes. I mean, it feels great inside, much better than it did, especially 10 years ago. But at the end of the day, it's still very much a Model 3. When you look at it from the side, it looks basically exactly the same as it did 10 years ago. So it's really just a question of if that matters to you, or are you just looking for a solid electric car with a lot of great features, self-driving, a comfortable ride, and so many options. I think this still delivers it, and Tesla's lineup here is more diverse than ever. So this car is in a really good place today. In any case, I hope this video was helpful for you, and in the meantime, if you want to check out my full review of the Model Y in the same fashion, where I drive the 3 main trims, you can check that out linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.